All right, guys, today I'm going to paint a piece of paper using an intermediate color, and I'm also going to do some planning for this lesson. So what I want to do is look at the color wheel to begin. An intermediate color means the same thing as a tertiary color. That means you mix a primary with a secondary. If you look on the color wheel, it will tell you when you mix a secondary with a primary what tertiary color you get. So I want you to look around the color wheel and pick one of these. They line up just right. Green, blue makes blue, green. So I think that's what I'm gonna make my piece of paper that I will be using in the lesson. So I'm gonna start with green, and I'm going to paint some right onto my paper. As I'm working today, we're gonna use a sgraffito technique. That means a technique where I scrape away paint. I'm gonna rinse my brush before I go into the blue. I don't wanna mix it up in the set. And I'm going to add some blue on top. You kind of want to go back and forth between the two colors, because if I had painted this whole paper with the green first, it probably would be dry and wouldn't mix to make this blue-green color I'm getting here. Now, the sgraffito technique is like this, and what I want you to do is focus on making organic shapes. These are free-flowing shapes, kind of like shapes that you would see in clouds or in water or leaves. Things that you would find in nature. So you're going to use that sgraffito technique as you're making your piece of construction paper that we will then use in collaging. Now, you may or may not use your construction paper. You might use one that someone else made. Depending on what color you choose, it might not be so useful to you, and someone else's might be more useful. So I'm going to do my blue on top, and before it dries, sgraffito. Scrape away. So I'm making these kind of wobbly leaf shapes. Maybe I'll make a shape like that, like a leaf. I'll make another one like that, then finishing the last little area of my paper. The next step in the project is planning. When you're doing the planning process, you can choose to do writing or drawing in the little sheet I will give you. That is both good options. The important part, though, is that you just get some ideas onto paper. So this is done. I'm going to put it on the drying rack, and I'm going to grab myself a pencil and go to planning. All right, this lesson is called Set the Table because literally you're going to collage, cut and glue what you might have at a special event. So the center is where you're going to begin, event. For me, a fun event is a birthday in my family. That's something we celebrate. So when there is a birthday or a birthday party, utensils I need. Things like a fork for the cake, a spoon because we usually have ice cream. Let's see, place settings. That means like a plate. We definitely need plates. I need a cake stand. That's what the cake stands on. Decorations. How about balloons? Maybe candles. Presents. Other. These are things that maybe you don't have a category for, but you might include. I think I'm going to come back to that. Textiles are fabrics. Are there any fabrics like a tablecloth? Okay, foods, definitely cake and ice cream. And let's see, I think I need matches under other to light my candle. So I can't forget to have the matches so I can light my candles, okay? Now I'm gonna put this away, and next time I see you, we are going to collage, or like I said, cut and glue this event, including everything that you would have on the table. All right, now I'm ready to start collaging or cutting and gluing. To make my birthday table, I'm gonna start by taking a piece of construction paper. I think I'm gonna cut that in half. And I'm gonna make the line for where my table is so I can show you all the things that are on my table. All right, so now I have a line for a table. It's a little bit uneven. Maybe I'll even that out quickly. We don't want the cake to fall off the table because the table's uneven. That's a little bit better. All right, now I can start to put things on my table. So I need a cake. So I may use the piece of paper I painted, or I can just use regular construction paper. So here's one layer of my cake. I think I'm gonna make it a green cake just for fun. I'm using that color green to unify my composition. Unify is when you repeat something to kind of tie your art together. So I have a green table with a green cake on top. I don't want to forget to make a cake stand either, so I think I'm going to do that now. Now sometimes when I'm making things, I will draw it first and then cut it out. So this is the stand that my cake is going to go on. Sometimes it's helpful to do that. Now when I do that though, I'm going to cut it and I'm not getting exactly where I drew. So to fix that problem, when I glue that, I'm gonna put the glue on the side with all my lines on it. So here's my cake stand with my cake, and I'm gonna make another layer on it. I think I'm gonna do an A-B pattern with my cake, so I'm gonna go back to that bright green there for my top layer. All right. Other things I need are candles. So I'm gonna cut them out, and then I'll go ahead and show you some techniques that are kind of fun and make for an interesting piece of art. So there's one candle. You could make candles that are shaped like numbers if you want. And then I'm gonna cut out some fire. When I do fire, I'm gonna use something called positive and negative space. When I am cutting something out, generally the positive space is what I keep. So in this case, this is the positive space. Now just to do something a little more fun and different, I'm gonna go back to that paper that I cut it out of, and I'm gonna cut around that fire-shaped hole, and I'm gonna put that right here. You can see that it creates the exact same shape, but it creates it in negative space, kind of like the outline of where my fire is. And I'm gonna use that for the fire right there, because I think that's kind of cool. Now I'm gonna make some bowls for my ice cream. So I'm just going through the things on my list. Now something that I like to do is called an explode technique. And I'm gonna do it here to give my dish a pattern. I'm kind of creating a puzzle by cutting apart my initial shape for my bowl. So now my bowl, it almost looks like it's broken, which is actually kind of cool, but it looks like it has zigzag lines on it. Whereas before it was just a solid green. Let's see, I'll do strawberry ice cream. So I'm looking for some red. Cutting out. And I'm gonna keep working like that until my artwork is full of different details that show you that I'm celebrating a birthday party at my house. Now I'm gonna time lapse you as I work on this, and then I'll come back and show you how to glue and what it'll look like when it's done. All right, now my paper is pretty full of details that show you what I'm celebrating. You can see I've added more negative space. I want you to use negative space in your art in at least one place. You'll also notice that I used the painted paper that I created during our last class. Now to start gluing, I'm just gonna scoot this stuff off my table because that needs to go down first. I'm just lifting up each piece, putting a little glue, and then sticking it. In a lesson like this, where you are gluing down specific shapes, it works much better to put the glue onto what you are gluing as opposed to the paper. So for the cake stand, I wouldn't put glue here on the white and stick that down. I'm gonna put the glue on the cake stand itself and then glue it. And remember, that was the one where I kind of made the mistake where I was cutting out. So you'll notice that I did glue it down on the side where my pencil was. That way my pencil mistake is kind of a secret. This is entirely a collage, meaning it's all made with cut and gluing. So I'm gonna keep those pencil lines off there. And I'm gonna show you real quick how to glue down the negative space, then I'll time lapse you again. So I'm gluing this down, and for the negative space, it gets a little tricky because sometimes it has a bend to it, but you just put the glue on the paper and stick it like you would any other piece. Mine goes off a little bit on the top there, but I actually kind of like how that looks. So I'm gonna time lapse you while I finish gluing, and then I'll show you how this comes together. All right, now my artwork is glued. To finish it up, I'm gonna flip it over to the back and give my paper a back rub. This just kind of ensures that everything sticks well and it makes it nice and flat. And now when I flip it over, you can see I have lots of details that show you this is for a birthday party, and the space is really filled. I don't have a lot of empty space. In fact, I think I might, before I'm all done, add a couple more balloons over here because that looks slightly empty to me. So that's something I might work on after this. So I can't wait to see about your family celebration when you set your table.